All right. Greetings, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. It's I, Tyler Ellison, here with my awesome friend, Starshine from the Sasani universe. And we are all here in this YouTube stream because we're going to be bringing forth RYOKAH of the Sasani. He is my number one counterpart and channeling companion, ally that I regularly bring through. I know most of you know that because you're here each Friday with us. For those of you that are new to this stream, welcome. I think you're going to have an amazing time because we're going to dive deep into the hidden mysteries of existence, the hidden meanings of current events, and also how all of this is synergistically blending together to achieve extraterrestrial open contact. And that is set to be achieved in 2020 or sooner. And I do mean that, or sooner. And that is dependent on our vibration, our collective energy. So thank you for contributing to that. Without your attention and energy into these cosmic directions, the Earth becomes a more materially focused plane. And when we expand our minds into these higher dimensions and into these higher levels of operation, naturally we begin to recognize that there's way more to life than we've been taught, and there's way more to life than most people even allow themselves to believe. So this is going to be a transformational session, and thank you guys for making this possible. Before we launch into the channel, and we're going to make a few announcements just so folks know about some of the exciting offerings that are happening this month as we move into the final 2 weeks of October, if you guys can believe it. It's very accelerated, these time streams that we're surfing together. I feel like a month is about 2 weeks now, or less. And I know I'm not the only one noticing that. So in terms of our events, this Sunday, the 19th, we are going to be with the New Earth Network offering a cosmic communications training program. So this is a one-day event. We're going to have the link in the description below this live stream. You can click that link and you can learn all about this amazing offering where the human body becomes a telepathic instrument. We are going to be going over heart-mind coherence as it relates to telepathing with the collective consciousness of the all that is. When we expand our minds into the collective field and merge with the isness, that is the business, the great all, the unified one, everything between us and that which is the existence is made conscious to us gradually over time. So this is an in-depth training where the expansion into the universal body will be achieved. And from that connection, information is downloaded. Furthermore, we're going to learn how to activate the three minds, and we're going to be using the minds to detect what kinds of information is resonant with us and what kind of information is not. So if you find that there's a lot of information out there, which there is, and you have to parse through it, and some of it resonates, some of it doesn't, but you don't know what's right for you, this is a training where you're actually going to be able to feel into yourself what resonates with you on a signature frequency level. So this is very empowering. And I use this technique regularly. At this stage in my evolution, these three centers are all synergized. So it's very obvious for me at this stage. But when we train all of these minds one by one, they're like muscles. We're also going to be getting into pendulum divinations and dowsing rod divinations in this training. So if you're going to come, please have a pendulum and a dowsing rod. It's not required, but if you have that, you're going to be able to follow along with me, and I'll show you how to use these objects. The dowsing rods are very useful. You can use them to find lost objects. You can use them to find chakras. You can use them to detect water underground, which is what they've been traditionally used for. And of course, you can also use them to communicate with extraterrestrial beings. So we are not only going to be communicating with the all, the everything, we're going to be isolating specific frequencies so you can begin a telepathic relationship with different cosmic beings that you get to choose. It doesn't have to be random, doesn't have to be vague. And I know for a lot of spiritual people, it's frustrating. You go to connect and you're like, I'm getting this information. I don't know where it's coming from. You're going to be able to isolate these frequencies through this training. So I'm excited to have you guys join us. It's going to be a lot of fun. And this upcoming last event for the month. It is our monthly magical ritual. I have to pull up the date here. Thank you so much for joining us. It's iTime. One second. Having technical issues on my end as I go to bring up my own website. One moment, everybody. Thank you guys for bearing with me. So we are actually doing a Friday ritual. We usually do our magical rituals on Sundays. That's why I had to check. I was like, this one's a special one. We've actually picked it on Friday the 24th. So this magical ritual is going to be harnessing the powers of what we describe as the Great Return. So the power of 24 is all about returning to self, returning to the signature frequency, and doing that specifically through the heart center. The Friday energies are correspondent with the goddess, with Venus, and this is love and the love of nature, the love of pleasure. So we are going to be blending those Venusian frequencies that are sensual, that are profound, and that are highly enjoyable with the heart energy. This allows for us to create a vortex of momentum that we are going to then use to triangulate the parallel reality of our preference. And we use the group momentum to quantumly tunnel into that dream reality. Each person that comes to the ritual, they have their own dream of what they want to create, what that love fully expressed authentically looks like. And all of those visions resonate as one in the exercise. So we take a group shift, and that is what we do each month at the Magical Rituals, which have been profound and have certainly helped my year and the year of the attendees to flow with such ease and amazement. Those are our two major updates for October. Stay tuned, because once we're in November, we're going to have more Sasani Universe Contact Series events. So do stay tuned. We have a few more before we wrap up the year, thus completing all 12 genetic lineages associated with our hybrid human genome. So thanks so much for paying attention, everybody. It's amazing to share this stuff. We love doing it, and we love that you guys are thrilled to receive it. So I'm going to go ahead now and enter in to the trance state. You guys know how this works. Once I'm in the trance, RYOKAH will deliver his message, and then Starshine is going to read off the questions that all of you submit through the chat. And he'll respond in real time to those questions. You can ask just about anything here. Nothing that gets us pulled off YouTube. Of course, we want to keep everything flowing in a way where we can continue to do this and it can continue to evolve. So all questions that are oriented towards your passion, your excitement, your deep curiosities about why things are the way they are, all of that and more is welcomed in this space. If you have personal questions, private sessions are ideal. If you sneak or slip a personal question in the chat and it gets read, that's how it goes, and you might get an answer here. So thanks, everybody. We'll go into the state together, and I will see you on the other side of the communication. Lord, we thank each and every single one of you for joining us. This is an exciting time to exist, and it is an exciting time to incarnate. And it is your excitement, your passion that has brought each and every single one of you here. And when I describe this here, that is, I am describing something that is, of course, beyond your perceptions of your local physical reality. When I am using the word here. I am describing the universal body. Outside of the universal body is what has been described as the multiversal ocean. And this is an ocean of unconditional love, joyfulness, ecstasy, blissfulness. There are realms, there are levels, if you will, within the structure that are beyond this multiversal ocean. Yet it is that ocean that holds all of the billions of infinite universes that exist. There are new universes that are simultaneously being created. There are universes that ascend and become one once more with the multiversal ocean. And since they have ascended and have become one with the multiversal ocean, they are able to go through the water process spiritually that you see on Earth. As you know, the oceanic water rises into the atmosphere and becomes clouds. So those universes that ascend, they're actually able to vibrationally elevate themselves beyond the multiversal ocean. And there are realms that go infinitely onwards into that higher frequency direction that all of you are following when you are following your heart, when you choose to follow your love, your passion, and your joyfulness. Do keep in mind that all things that can be experienced, whether they are physical things or non-physical things, will move in accordance to what you describe as the Fibonacci sequence. This mathematical design represents the evolutionary spiral. When all beings within a universal body align with that natural blueprint that expresses uniquely within each being, this allows for the entirety of that universe to go through the ascension process that we have described. The higher realms also follow this Fibonacci pattern in a more expanded and multi-dimensional way. The Fibonacci sequence approximates what you call that golden ratio, the golden spiral. And it has been said by some that that spiral represents mathematically your concept of perfection. The Fibonacci sequence infinitely approximates this perfection. It gets infinitely closer and closer and closer and closer to it. And those two mathematical sequences go on forever. They will continue to get closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to total alignment forever and ever. That is how the higher dimensional realms are. Anything that can be experienced will have some degree of the perception of self and other. On those higher levels, the only self and other really is you, the soul, and the monad of existence. And of course, when you look into that monad, what do you see? You see the dreaming mind of all things, of all beings. You are perfection in progress, each and every single one of you. How could perfection get more perfect? That's the paradox of your existence. You are infinite eternal beings that have chosen biological instruments as temporary costumes that allow for you to create things that have never been, thus expanding the multidimensional realms, because all realms anchor into physical reality. I will say that again, all realms anchor in to physical reality, some more directly, some less directly. So what you do within physical reality is defining, not just for physical reality, but also what occurs on many other levels within the universal body. So we share all of this with you because you're aware your physical reality is changing. Time is speeding up. Your inner awareness is becoming more clear. It is easier to notice that which is behind the mask. And it's also easier to notice the events that took place within one's life that created limiting belief systems that engendered the mask that is worn. This is a time where you can almost effortlessly detoxify yourself of those limiting belief systems. Remember, a belief system is nothing more than a story that has been partially inherited and co-created by usually your inner child, doing the best that it can to understand reality and to adapt to the unique challenges that it faces. You may notice I'm speaking about your inner child from a present tense perspective. And this is the case. Your inner child is here. Your inner child is now. You are the result of your inner child, and you are a co-creator eternally with your inner child. I remind you all, there is a dimension of your inner child that resonates perfectly with what you describe as the frequency of original purity. This is the you before you chose to adjust yourself to please somebody else. And I would like for you to think about that, because that is a living dimension within all of you. It is a living dimension within all forms of life. And I speak to this dimension now. And as you notice the feeling that naturally begins to emerge, allow for that feeling to rise into the heart. And as you hold your hands in this moment now over the heart, allow for that heartbeat to unify you in a conscious way with all of us in this moment. When you feel your heart in this way, your inner child feels billions of beings supporting you. Take a moment each day, if you like, to hold your heart like you would hold your inner child, and allow for that natural communication that is the heartbeat to inform you. Let it speak to you. It doesn't always speak in words. It will speak in knowledge. It will speak in knowing, and it will speak in the frequencies that your soul has always understood and still understands. And as you breathe, notice the space between the breaths, the space between the heartbeats. In this space that seems still and silent, there is a symphony of spiritual sounds and colors of spiritual light. The mind's eye, as it awakens, will reveal to you the inner landscapes, the inner treasures, the inner dimensions that you possess that allow for you in this lifetime to transcend the universal body, the multiversal ocean, and enter into the realms above. You can do that now. You can do that here. You don't have to leave physical reality to do that. That is the power of the mind's eye. And if you can rise to those levels, which all of you can, then you can change whatever needs to be changed in your equation of physical reality co-creation. We thank you all for joining us in that very special moment that is alive and is eternal. This meditation and this connection will support you across time. At any point in your timeline where you detect a past self may need some assistance or a future self may need some assistance, recall this exercise, remember this, and allow for that heart energy to make contact with whatever point on your timeline is needed. As the higher self in the present moment, transmit messages of love, messages of beauty, messages of encouragement, and your wisdom. Remember, in the present moment, in the here and now, what you say goes. And it goes a long way. Technically, it vibrates onwards forever and ever and ever. Even though, of course, it will blend with other frequencies. And of course, the broadcast usually becomes diminished the further away from the source it is. Despite that, it mingles with many energies, thus amplifying it. So keep in mind, when you send out a thought through your spiritual connection, beings that are further away from you in higher realms take the thought broadcast and energize it so that way it can actually transcend the usual limits and go further and further and further. These are some of the behind the scenes descriptions of your spiritual networks and how they operate, so that way you can have more context when you engage in the multidimensional space. We make ourselves now available to you all for the questions that you have chosen to share with us this day. You may begin at your leisure.
Hello, friend. How are you today?
We are delighted to be, and we are delighted to see you in this moment. Thank you for sharing your love, your attention with all of us. And how are you on this day of days?
Fabulous as always. So let's go ahead and start with the first question.
Very good.
So recently they discovered new comets, the R2 Swan and the Borisov comet. Can you speak on those? Are those similar technology as the 3I Atlas?
They are different than 3I Atlas. And you are going to find that as your detection technologies become more sophisticated, many objects are going to be found. Now, these additional celestial objects also synergize in terms of archetypal themes with 3I Atlas, and I'll open this up a little bit more. So do keep in mind, your instruments are becoming more sensitive. You are detecting anomalies, or at least what appear to your scientists to be anomalies. What you're going to find is, as you begin to notice more of these anomalies and strange celestial objects, additional ones that really blow your species' minds will also be discovered. So think of these initial detections as a foreshadowing of the additional detections that will be made that will become more and more and more reflective of your species' collective belief system. So these objects are bringing with them different extraterrestrial frequencies. 3I Atlas a little more so. And we have talked about 5 extraterrestrial civilizations that have synchronized their consciousness with the celestial object you describe as 3I Atlas. And there are 3 main civilizations that utilize it to explore the cosmos in various ways. These objects oftentimes will act as a type of remote viewing device, similar to your concept of a camera drone. And this allows for extraterrestrial beings to map out the cosmos and to understand the various worlds that exist. Furthermore, extraterrestrial beings from a projected state will hitch a ride on these objects, and they will then use the objects to beam their consciousness to various realities that the celestial object is passing by. So this is a step towards contact, and it is a foreshadowing of your instrumentation becoming more sophisticated, thus leading towards the discovery of a variety of strange and unusual celestial phenomena that stretches your belief systems, that stretches your understanding of what is possible. And of course, this will lead into the detection of a variety of different extraterrestrial vehicles once those detection devices reach a higher level of refinement. Do keep in mind, there are instruments that are used to detect extraterrestrial craft, and they do so with a high degree of accuracy. These exist on your planet. They have existed on your planet for some time. You don't have to really wander around too much and wondering who gave such technologies to humanity. There's extraterrestrial beings that have been working behind the scenes with humanity all along. So there have been certain technologies imparted that allow for the detection of some of these things to be achievable. Now, that doesn't mean those instruments are mainstream, and it doesn't mean all of your scientists have access to it. Eventually, the technologies that the mainstream scientists have will become sophisticated enough where they will be able to make those detections on their own. And of course, those will likely be announced, although there will likely be a lot of discussion beforehand because of the social implications that can occur through such revelations.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Up next, Can you share about civilizations that existed on Earth that we have no knowledge or record of today?
There are so many. So many. There are thousands of ancient civilizations that you have no record of, you have no knowledge of. Remember, the surface of your Earth has been rearranged many times. The most recent one you describe as your Hunger Dryas era. Many civilizations were erased during those days. There are some that remained, you may notice. Göbekli Tepe and the civilization associated with that. They were able to leave a mark. They weren't totally erased. You have your Great Pyramids. They weren't totally erased. You also have some of your underground pyramids in the Amazon. They have not been erased. So all civilizations, regardless of whether or not they leave artifacts or structures or things like this or not, all civilizations have an eternal existence within the inner earth crystalline Akashic record. So all civilizations still exist, even the ones that your surface no longer has a name for or has knowledge of. Perhaps those things have been lost on the surface. Those civilizations still exist. We will describe one of them to you now that we have prefaced the topic. There is a civilization that existed off the coast of the continent that you describe as your ancient continent of Mu. This civilization was a very special civilization that focused on blending cosmic genetics with human terrestrial genetics. So this was a civilization of hybrid beings. If you were to observe their complexion, they all had blue skin. They were taller in nature, taller in stature, if you will. They possessed a great deal of psychic abilities. And this civilization evolved independently of the civilization of Lemuria or ancient Mu. And this is because the focus there was almost entirely spiritual in nature. These beings were designed to absorb as much of the celestial energies as possible, and then acting as human anchors for those energies, they could transmit those frequencies through their body into the earth, thus distributing those energies throughout the ley line network. And this allowed for a greater synchronization to take place between humanity and the variety of celestial beings that were guiding humanity and working with humanity during those days. This island civilization then began to spread out, and they brought the teachings that they had received to a variety of different tribal and indigenous populations. These beings are described in your ancient texts as the seven sages. We share this with you because they still exist. They are still here. They have not left. And even though they are described as seven, those seven represent many beings from that civilization. We will share a name for this group, so that way they can be called upon for reference, for assistance, for clarification, and for guidance. Anu Deva. This is a name that can be used to access them.
Thank you.
You are very welcome.
Up next, is there anything about open contact that we don't know yet, but that could help us in some way to accelerate its realization?
By recognizing that extraterrestrial beings are present in your aura, regularly. There are multidimensional portals within your aura. These portals connect to various realms that your soul has previously or will explore within the incarnational journey. So, as a result of that, there's a quantum entanglement to a variety of different worlds located within the various levels of your electromagnetic aura and beyond the electromagnetism. So, right now, can you detect which layer of your aura is vibrating as I describe this? Can you notice the quality of energy that is a part of that layer of your aura? And can you detect if that quality of energy is from a celestial realm or a terrestrial realm? Begin to notice that contact is happening now. This is a form of it. And I know that this is a form many of you are somewhat familiar with. Nevertheless, even though physically you see the channel do this from time to time each week, between those interactions and during those interactions, these layers are activating and various extraterrestrial beings are observing you. They make slight adjustments to assist you. Many of them do what they can to impart information that's meant to give you the puzzle piece that you have been looking for in your journey. So when you have those aha moments and you see the light bulb that illuminates above you, that is a download, and it's a download usually from one of these higher beings because they can see from a greater perspective. So the more you can recognize that within your aura, these beings are present and they're already working with you, the more contact you will achieve, thus achieving an earlier summoning of open contact. So the more psychically aware you are of the extraterrestrial presence that is, the sooner contact happens because the more that knowledge will broadcast and it becomes a natural embodiment for the citizens of your earth. So this realization that we are describing here, this is something many people are going to naturally notice as you get closer to 2027, because those portals within the aura and the beings connected to them are going to get more and more and more obvious. I'm sharing this with you now ahead of time before that collective realization moment occurs, so you can get a sneak peek and so you can actually accelerate that process if you deem that to be something you desire. So that is within your hands, but recognize that's happening now. If you like, close your eyes, sort of zoom out, see yourself in your room. But imagine that there are legions of extraterrestrial beings making a circle around you. There's another circle outside of that, another one outside of that. See rings of extraterrestrial beings observing you. Keep going, more rings, more beings. And this is not an exaggeration. Keep going, keep stretching your mind, keep zooming out and see more and more rings of extraterrestrial beings watching. You can keep this visualization going on forever if you want. You can just keep expanding it because that is the nature of extraterrestrial consciousness. It has a conscious relationship with its infinity. And that's what we are assisting all of you in waking up to. When you remember that the infinite field and the infinite consciousness is both within you and around you, you can detect your infinite nature, which will accelerate the contact process. Because in the realms of infinity, in the realms of eternity, time is incredibly relative, and time does not have to express linearly. Time can express in many unusual and unique creative ways, and you have access to that. So this is not just about open contact. Think of all of the prayers, the manifestational programs you have broadcasted that represent the version of Earth you prefer. That's also included in this description. When you dilate time in that way, when you enter into no time, when you enter into eternity, you are able to modify things. So that way, the timeline can express in a manner that is more preferential.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Up next, is there any mantra or words of power we can use to remove limiting beliefs?
So The mantra I will share, this is Hebrew in nature. Adonai Roi. And this translates as the all-seeing Lord, or the Lord whom sees. What this will do is it's going to illuminate your third eye. So you're going to notice where those negative belief systems are. Remember, you can create a permission slip that temporarily deactivates your negative belief systems. And that can allow for you to temporarily operate in a way that's very unlimited. And many of you have done this whenever you really take that next step, or whenever you choose to take that risk or that leap in your life. Many of you are naturally suspending your negative belief systems and you say, I'm going to do this. And of course, you have success, and that success eventually is met with challenge. And that does not stop your success. Rather, it refines your success and brings it to a higher level if the challenge is used auspiciously. And what are the challenges that show up on your path to success? Those belief systems that were temporarily suspended that now are asking for integration. So when you use that mantra, Adonai Roi, you will be able to see where those areas are in your life that must be evaluated through the lens of belief system deconstruction. So how do you know where the negative beliefs are hiding? If you ask yourself, what are my negative belief systems? Good luck trying to find them, because they're going to hide, because they don't want to be found, because they operate in darkness. If you bring them into the light, what happens? They fall apart. So a mantra that can actually dissolve the more superficial negative belief systems: Adonai Haor. If you detected a similarity to the name Hathor, you're onto something. Adonai Haor translates as Lord of Light. And if you vibrate this in your heart and see that your body fills with light with every repetition, you're going to deactivate and sometimes completely dissolve the superficial limiting belief systems. Now, will it get to the core? Eventually. If you keep doing that mantra every day as an exercise, filling yourself with light, filling yourself with love, you will find that you dissolve more and more and more of the negative belief systems automatically. And the core belief system that the superficial ones are stacked upon will become obvious, and you'll be able to let it go. It's imperative that you get in touch with yourself and make those things conscious. So let's talk about how to detect negative belief systems. All you have to do is scan your life experience. You can scan into the past, the present, the future, and observe the things that create a negative emotional sensation within you. It could be something that gives you frustration. It could be something that creates sadness. It could be something that creates envy. Take a moment to observe those things. And then the idea is to create a fill-in-the-blank sentence. We'll pick an example here. Let's say a person evaluates their past, and they find that when they recall a time where they performed the act and art of public speaking, they became incredibly nervous. And they feel it when they remember that time. So let's use that as the example. Whenever I public speak, fill in the blank. Now, there's going to be two answers that come. The first answer will be from your subconscious, and that's that gut answer, that knee-jerk answer. It's going to be very unpolished. It might even shock you a little bit. It might surprise you. That's the answer you put in that blank. Do not put in the very refined official answer that you know is going to sound really good. Avoid that at all costs, or you're going to just deceive yourself and you won't find the belief. So you need to go with what your subconscious spits out. Whenever I public speak, I become incredibly fearful. Now add a because to that. I become incredibly fearful because everyone is judging me. And now you're getting deeper. Everyone is judging me because I don't really know what I'm doing. You're going deeper. I don't really know what I'm doing because no one taught me, or I never learned. No one ever taught me because I was not worth teaching. And now we're going to get to the core. That's the I am statement here, the negative I am statement, or the limiting one. I am not worth teaching because I inherently have no value. Now, you could take that deeper if you wanted to. I inherently have no value because, but you can pause right there because it's an I am statement, and you're reducing all of those because statements to an I am identity statement. That's really the core right there. So the next stage is look at that belief. Is that helping me or is that hurting me? In this case, I have no inherent value or I'm inherently worthless. It's not really helping anybody. The next thing that can be evaluated for those that are more intellectual, is this belief true? Is there any partial truth or relative truth connected to it? And sometimes those intellectual folks will say, well, there's some evidence for it. But with belief systems, we're not going for truth here in terms of what humans collectively agree to be true, because that changes with your generations, as many of you know. So the bottom line is, if it's not helpful, if it's hurtful, regardless if there's partial truths, impeach the belief, eradicate it, delete it. From here, replace it with the new one, and you can go off of the unchanging spiritual truths every time. My value is infinite, for I am an infinite being created by the infinite love that generates all things. And you've made it through that belief system. You're in a new reality now, right now. So you will find that you can continue to scan throughout the timeline. You'll find other areas. Repeat the process. I'm here to let you know you're at a stage where there's only going to be so many you have to discover. You have done a lot of refining. All of you, you have evolved so much. So these belief systems that you're going to be detoxifying now, these are belief systems that will become glaringly obvious. And you're going to be surprised you didn't do it sooner. And you're going to be so grateful that you've chosen to do it now. We thank you for that question. It is a very relevant question. It is possibly the ultimate question, because that is the key to how you unlock the new realities that you have been visualizing, that you have been speaking forth, that you have been crafting behind the scenes.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So Bashar has shared that there is a Pleiadian base underneath Mount Shasta. What can you share about that?
It's not just a Pleiadian base. So the way you can visualize it is the following way. See on the surface Mount Shasta. Now beneath that, see a tunnel network, goes very, very down. See the different levels of the Earth. The tunnel networks weave through the different levels, and see that there is an ocean of light that the tunnel networks lead to. Beneath that ocean of light, you can see a crystalline civilization. This represents Lemuria. Begin to imagine that this crystalline civilization within the Earth has a night sky above it, which I know to your logical mind won't make a lot of sense. It's not supposed to. But there's a night sky above that civilization. And see that the North Star of that civilization is the Seven Sisters of the Pleiades. So the ancient people of Lemuria had a very in-depth relationship with the Pleiadians. They worked with the Pleiadians extensively, generation to generation to generation. So the Pleiadians act as guardians for the Lemurian people. So beneath Shasta, beneath the tunnel networks, beneath the different levels of bedrock, there's a portal of light that brings one into an inner Earth reality where not only are the Lemurians still present, but the Pleiadian guardians also have portals within their society's collective aura that can visually manifest as the stars, acting as star gates, thus allowing for Pleiadian beings to still interact with inner Earth through the Lemurian connection. Shasta acts as a broadcast beacon for those inner Earth frequencies that are both Lemurian in nature and are Pleiadian in nature. Remember that there are many different levels of inner Earth. There are many different civilizations that are relevant to inner Earth. So not all inner Earth connections are going to be like that. They're all very unique, just as different parts of your world are very unique and have different connections. But for Shasta in particular, you have Lemurian and Pleiadian connections that continuously work together, and this represents a very ancient relationship that is still occurring to this day, and they act as collective anchors for those Pleiadian frequencies, so all of you on the surface can partake. The Pleiadians are genetically very similar to you. They represent a higher evolutionary path. So through stabilizing those energies and sort of anchoring them in to your collective consciousness, you all have access to that to a much greater degree than you would otherwise.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Can you speak on the meaning of the character we know as Batman?
The meaning of Batman is the one whom sees in the dark. Batman, of course, represents the light in the dark because there are many beings that see in the dark, and they can use that power for service to self-dynamic, service to other dynamics. The choice is up to them. So Batman represents, in your modern context, the one whom sees in the dark, whom uses that power to assist those who dwell in darkness in once more finding their light. Remember, the bat sees in the dark. It hears in the dark. The vibratory emanations bounce off the trees, the cave walls and tunnels, and the bat can see. So remember that your character, Batman, in his story as a child, loses something significant, his mother and father. The mother and father are like the personal sun and moon to the child. And in your ancient texts, the eyes are compared to the sun and the moon. He also represents the discovery of strength and power through adversity, through challenge, through what would otherwise be a handicap. So, your modern idea of Batman, for many, is very inspiring because that's a really relatable theme. That's the underdog theme. And many people on your planet relate to the underdog. They've been through a lot, and they've had to overcome and transform themselves, and now look at them. So it is a very resonant story for many of the archetypes that so many humans are playing out, whether they're conscious of it or not. In terms of the ancient depictions of the Batman, remember, there are Mesoamerican cultures that have deities that share a striking resemblance to your modern superhero that you call Batman. And this being was an underworld deity that was invoked to guide souls. There was also a protective role, and of course, that being also has a shadow side that can also be invoked as well. And that is the case with many underworld deities because they play a protective role as much as they do a guiding role.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So, what is the strangest planet you've ever visited, and what was strange about it?
There was a world I visited. The name does not translate very well into English, but I will provide a name for this world for you. Kakshna. Kakshna. Very strange word, I know. It doesn't really mean anything in your modern human language, and that's because the beings there are exclusively plant beings on the physical level that have co-evolved with a massive vine network. So think of trees and vines that grow to the size of earth mountains. They synergize with one another. The idea is the vines that wrap around these trees produce a variety of compounds that actually nourish the trees, and the trees produce extra energy for the vines. This world is a hive consciousness world where all of the different vines that extend up into the trees and the branches have a very deep connection into the internal level within the planet. So all of those different vines and all of those different trees act as one super consciousness. Yet each of those vines are almost like an octopus tentacle. So they represent individuated beings. The same is the case with each tree. So you have a hive mind that also has specific personalities. And this is a very disorienting world, even for a being like myself. Because when you are in such a world, it is as if billions of voices are speaking. But these voices speak in a language that cannot necessarily be deciphered because it's a secret language that the vines and the trees speak with one another, so their synergy may continue. It is a world of primordial powers. This type of world informs many other species in how to coexist in a way that prevents parasitism and promotes synergy and cooperation. So on Earth, many vines, if they grow too much on a tree, it will starve the tree, it will hurt the tree. This is not the case on that world. So this is a world where synergy is being practiced. There are certain experimental planets like this that have been brought into the existence, so that way certain lessons can be learned on that macro level, and those lessons can then be transmitted to various regions of the cosmos that can inform other species on how they can get along. That's one of the purposes of what are called experimental worlds, experimental planets, and this is one of them.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So up next, when in the Gray's timeline did they have open contact and with which ET race?
It's sort of a interesting question because they didn't necessarily have what you would describe as open contact in the way that all of your species is moving towards open contact. The first beings that the Greys made true contact with were the mantis beings. Other extraterrestrial civilizations communicated with them through their technologies, in some instances telepathically, but those connections didn't really last. They didn't really stick because the agreements and arrangements were not to the liking of the Gray people. So they turned those down. The real contact began when they accepted the assistance of the mantis beings, whom represent that feminine balance to the reptilian masculinity. So we're talking about masculine and feminine here in a neutral sense. The mantis beings are more about creating life, nurturing life. The reptilian beings, they are about expansion and creating realities, creating worlds. So there's sort of an inner and outer balance that the mantis and reptilian beings play. We have described them as two of the most ancient species within this universal body. The beings of Arcturus, which you call ancient Arcturians, they are also incredibly ancient, and they migrated to that modern abode that you call the Arcturus system. So the mantis beings were the first to create that well-established form of contact with the Greys. This occurred later in the Greys' timeline. This was much later because they tried everything they could to perfect their world, and because of their belief systems that their physical mind would give them all of the answers. They literally tried everything, including editing themselves, trying to expand their intelligence, and it really got them into a sticky situation. It's like they sunk deeper and deeper and deeper into quicksand till they were up to their head and neck. And all that was left was the brain. So when an animal gets backed into a corner, it will do desperate things. And for the Greys, that desperation led to a moment of vulnerability and openness. And that was what allowed for the mantis connection to initiate. And from here, they formed a synergistic alliance. Remember, the mantis beings are a part of the interstellar alliance. They have been for some time. So through the Greys, working with the mantis beings, this represented a shift towards the interstellar alliance and away from the reptilian energy currents that they had been subconsciously buying into through over-reliance on the regions of the brain that approximate and embody what you call your brain stem. It's where most of them were operating from. They literally sunk lower and lower and lower until they were operating from that basal level of consciousness while still possessing their intellectual knowledge, which sort of shielded them from recognizing that they were moving further and further away from their true balance point. That occurred, the mantis connection occurred much later in their timeline. That was near the decline. And when I say decline, I don't mean the beginning of the decline, I mean the acceptance, the true acceptance that they had declined, that their civilization had declined. So, openness, faith, and choosing to create a connection is what allowed for them to grab that rope that pulled them out of that quicksand.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Up next, how can we get into an out-of-body astral projection, and what's the difference between normal astral projection and an out-of-body astral projection?
Out-of-body astral projections are sometimes referred to as soul projections or etheric projections. And what this means is, instead of the astral body being used, which is further out in the aura, the etheric body is used. That's much closer to you. So when you project using your etheric body, you're out of body completely. You will feel as if you're completely detached from the physical body. This is where you're flying around your room. This is where you could go wherever you desire with little to no thought about the physical body. Now, of course, that skill is very taxing. It can be trained, it can be performed. It's easier if you're in the dream state to achieve it. If you do it consciously, it's really going to stretch you in some ways that you're not used to. Because remember, when you create that soul projection in that way, that's the same thing that happens when you die. So your body will resist it. Your body will say it's not supposed to happen like this. So the key is, in the beginning, deep relaxation of the physical body. Use some kind of script or hypnosis. You can even create it yourself that reminds your physical body you're in control. We are safe. This is so relaxing and fun, and really guide yourself down. Give yourself countdowns, do body scanning techniques, really relax the system because the animal wants to live. And yes, there is a risk if you regularly perform out-of-body projections on the etheric level. It is imperative that you energize yourself regularly. It is imperative that you do meditations where you're energizing and you're strengthening the astral body, the etheric body, because it's like you're spending energy when you project. You need gas in your gas tank to drive your car. You need food in your physical apparatus, most of you, to produce energies to do your day-to-day tasks. So you need a high degree of spiritual energy for that projection to be sufficient. Because if you run out of energy while you're projected, the minimum result is you fall asleep and you come back to your body. Other situations can occur where a person can get disoriented. They can also have challenge in actually getting back into their body. This has also happened to people before. So you can train this. It can be trained safely, but be responsible with it. Remember that there are multiple points of entrance to the body. These are also exit points as well. All of your chakras are like this. So once the body is fully relaxed, expand the relaxation into the aura. And then once all of the physicality and energy body is relaxed, bring the mind to your mid-eyebrow point and third eye and begin to let this point vibrate with energy and expand. Eventually, it's going to get so full of energy, because energy is like heat, it's going to want to rise. And once it rises, keep your mind in that elevating perspective. And that's going to start to bring you out of body. Now, if you really want to get good at it, see that there is a rope that descends down from the heavens, or a ladder, whatever you like, and use your energy body to grab the rope and climb and climb and climb and climb. If you do this properly, you're going to pop out of your physical body. This is best trained during theta state in terms of the brain waves. Let yourself be very comfortable. Don't have a lot of heavy things covering you when you do this. Let the temperature in the room be very nice and comfortable. Not too hot, not too cold. Light stomach, empty bladder. Make sure you're really prepared for this. You don't want to be climbing that ladder. You're about to pop out, and then your body says, I need to do X, Y, and Z. So really prepare for such a thing. And it is a big deal if you achieve it, because if you achieve that consciously, you're going to be able to do things that most people are not able to do. I'm not exaggerating that. You will possess abilities most people dream of. This can turn into skills like bilocation. This can also turn into things like performing remote healings. This can also look like traveling to other dimensions, representing your people, your planet. There's a lot you can achieve through that. Now, remember, you can achieve similar effects through astral projection, which does not create a full out-of-body experience. In astral projection, which is known as spirit projection, there's still a slight awareness of the physical body. Usually, the practitioner's center of gravity is consciously remembered while they travel. So that way they're connected to the power source of their physical body. So it's like the energy body is the drone, and the little bit of self that rests in the body is fully synchronized with the higher self and operates as the drone pilot. And these projections, they tend to be more conscious, more controllable, and they're easier for people to achieve. Now, the effects that are achieved with that kind of projection take place first on the astral plane, which means they trickle down to that etheric plane, and then they synergize fully with physical reality. When you soul project or etherically project, you're working on that etheric level. So the results are almost instantaneous, whatever it is you choose to create whilst performing the soul projection. Be cautious and be responsible, and remember that your higher self and the many ascended masters that you're connected to are guiding you, both through these words, through your own inner intuition, and through the myriads of spiritual technologies that specialize in such phenomena.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So perhaps we can take our last question of the day.
All right. The final question.
Yes. So what makes the skin blue as that of an Anunnaki or a Lemurian being?
There is a different chemical power within the blood. There's also a slight difference in the morphology or the shape of the blood cells. So the blood cells that circulate through their system have a toroidal field that surrounds them that has been multidimensionally activated. Thus, various platonic geometries are able to be overlaid upon that blood cell that circulates through them. So their blood has been spiritually activated and structured. This allows for the chemical composition of the blood to be more greatly resonant with their underlying spiritual template. The underlying spiritual template of these beings is based upon the throat center. And these beings, the blue-skinned beings, many of you call them the Anunnaki, and they are said to be the creators of reality. And when you read into your modern and somewhat ancient creation stories, what do you have? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. The Word was with God. So think about this deeply. Language is essential. Language is the building blocks to conscious creation. And remember, language exists on the higher levels and transcends the boundaries that you describe as your physical languages. The throat chakra, in addition to reality creation, also specializes in lucid dreaming. And as you know, in lucid dreaming, you can pretty much create whatever you can imagine. So these blue-skinned beings whom traveled the cosmos, whom assisted in the establishing of what you call modern humanity, these beings still exist, as we have mentioned, and their spiritual abodes are based upon the throat chakra. So remember, this little throat chakra that you all have, your personal one, it's a little fractal of a higher spiritual dimension. And it is this dimension that these blue-skinned beings embody and emanate from. In terms of where in your solar system this dimension is anchored, your planet Jupiter. This is why the all-seeing eye is such a big, big symbol. So, more on that in the future sessions. For now, remember the following. These beings that we are describing, there are so many projections that humans assign to them. We're talking about Anunnaki, and we're talking about the deities that, of course, are meant to represent the Anunnaki. There's so many projections that have been cast upon these beings, some very positive, some very negative. Regardless of the projections, you have your own inner resonance. You can tune into the three minds. And you can also bring into resonance, you can also tune all Anunnaki dimensions of your DNA, which fully awakens the genetic scaffolding. When that happens, any Anunnaki beings that are associated with you and your society also go through an evolution. Remember, in your Sumerian texts, it has been said that the humans that the Anunnaki created were more powerful than the Anunnaki because you have greater density, you have greater physicality, and you are also enhanced in terms of your ability to produce language and your ability to imagine. You have a more expansive imagination. In our Keys to the Anunnaki transmission, we talked about this. This was the main superpower that they gave all of you because it is that imagination that allows for you to summon whatever you need from the multiverse of experience and from the multiversal ocean of infinite love. So you are able to bring civilizations into ascended states, as well as yourself, simply through you listening to the soul song, breathing into the heart, and honoring that connection that you have not just with all things, but also with all things that have yet to be discovered by you. You have a connection to the unknown, that which even now your mind attempts to imagine. Within that veil and behind that veil, your future self shares treasure with you now. We thank you for your attendance in this transmission. We thank you for the love and the kindness you share with us, our unconditional love and gratitude to each and every single one of you. Enjoy and be glad, for your new earth emerges here and now together. Okay. Thank you, everybody. That was really powerful, and we got to dive into a lot of new topics, and I appreciate the cool questions. A few of them stand out to me. The first one, the meteor comet question, blue skin. Those are the two that are on the tip of my tongue. That's the main thing that I took away from this. So you guys remember a heck of a lot more than I do. I hope this really answered some questions for you, and I also hope, too, it opened new doors of synchronicity for you, because I think that is really what all of us are aiming for, receiving information that helps us unlock now the next level to our individual journey and this collective journey of contact. So thank you guys for opening these doors with me, and thank you, Starshine, for being here with us and the awesome question selection that you have provided.
Thanks, Tyler. Thanks, RYOKAH, of course. And yeah, thanks to all of you guys for your wonderful questions.
Thank you guys so much. We love you all forever, and we are excited to see you guys soon. Thanks for being you.